Thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call this work session to order to get an update on the 49th State Angel Fund. Let's go ahead and do a roll call, please.
Miss Allard.
Here.
Mr. Constant. Mr. Dunbar.
Here.
Ms. Kennedy.
Here.
Ms. LaFrance. Mr. Perez-Radia. Mr. Peterson.
Present.
Mr. Weddleton.
Here.
Ms. Zolotel. All right, thank you.
Ms. Zolotel is unable to join us, and I do see that Ms. LaFrance has joined us. Thank you. Okay, so as usual, if members, when I get in the queue, please put yourself in the chat or text me if you can't access the chat. With that, Erin, good to see you again. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Erin and the administration for our presentation.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, everyone, for having us and getting us on the schedule. I'm really excited to give you this presentation, especially on the heels of Kai's work session. I think he laid a fantastic foundation for us to continue this conversation with you all. I'm going to share my slides. Okay, can everybody see just the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. So to begin, I don't know if you've already done this today, but we would like to acknowledge the land that we are on, that is the Dena'ina land, and that we honor and appreciate the past, present, and future stewardship of the Indigenous communities in Anchorage and beyond in all of Alaska. So I'm going to get better at these as time goes on, but it's been top of mind for our office for a while. So thank you. Really quick, our agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about 49 SAF, which I think I gave you an overview of that. So this will be a great time for you all to ask questions about our business model or our model in general. Then we'll talk about our exceptional 2020 year review, and then we'll talk about the future and our new initiatives. It's no surprise that you've heard a lot about this already. So to begin, we'd like to cover how 49 SAF, as a function of the municipality, are supporting Anchorage in the Survive, Adopt, and Thrive. So we did not go into 2020 knowing that this was going to be our model, but as we overlay it with everything that we've been doing up to this point and plan on doing, it actually fits quite well. So to begin, this is actually taken from CFO Alex Lipka's office, which is where we work. We work in we work with Alex. We work in his office, and we'll move forward. Again, our mission statement is to provide an evergreen source of capital to high growth businesses, to promote entrepreneurship, foster innovation, creating jobs and economic benefit for Anchorage. Our goal is to strengthen Alaska's risk capital and entrepreneurial ecosystem, and then assist early stage and disadvantaged businesses. To start, one of the reasons we wanted to hold this work session is because 49 SAF has seen quite a number of changes in the last year. One of them is that Joe Morrison has moved on to another opportunity. I think it's Kitsap Economic Development Corporation in Washington, and I have stepped in as the director effective October of this year. I served as interim for the 1.5 months before that. I am terrible at talking about myself, but as I noted in the previous presentation, I've been a part of our entrepreneurial ecosystem for a few years now and have been able to, I guess, integrate a little bit with all of the programs and the Innovation Dash. I've participated in Startup Weeks. Or Startup Weekends as well. I won second place my first year. We But before that, I don't know, I studied at University of North Carolina. I have a master's degree in political science, don't judge me. Also an undergrad degree in communications and political science. I've lived in Alaska. I'm going on, I think this is my 10th winter. And I originally moved here for the summer to be a deckhand. So I deckhanded out of Ninilchik for 2 years before deciding this is where I was going to live forever and ever. I'm very excited to take on this role and to work in the municipality and to serve this community's interests in this office. With that, I'll turn it over to Melanie.
Hello, everyone. I am a new face to Anchorage and to this group. Thrilled to have joined when Aaron became director in October. I hail from San Francisco, where I just finished an MBA program at the Presidio Graduate School in Sustainable Finance. And prior to that, I was a product manager at Google. In the last few years, I've been able to join a venture team that was a venture capital team that was focused on women's empowerment and entrepreneurship. And I've also been a board member for the Women in Clean Tech Sustainability Group, leading a pitch competition every year for female entrepreneurs in the clean tech and sustainability spaces. So I'm thrilled to be able to come up here in addition to having also worked on a impact strategy for the Alaska Conservation Foundation last year and really have an impact on the entrepreneurship ecosystem. We are joined, it's not just Aaron and I, thankfully, who are working on the 49th State Angel Fund. We have a fantastic advisory committee that is mayor appointed, selected leaders from the community who have been entrepreneurs, business owners, C-suite, have a diversity of background, are investors in some cases themselves, and are really here to guide and recommend next steps and investments for the 49th State Angel Fund.
So as I spoke about in the previous, I'm going to stop saying that. Okay, so since stepping into the director role, we've decided to grow our impact in the community by building out a four-pillar strategy to support our ecosystem. And one, of course, is investing our state small business credit initiative dollars. I think we have a few people who weren't in on the last call, so feel free to jump in and ask questions if you have questions about our original corpus, investment corpus. But we had $12.7 million to invest, which requires a private capital match 1-to-1 into small business or startups. Two, our other pillar is that we have seen returns on those original investments and to the tune of $1.68 million. So we will continue to invest those evergreen dollars as well as fund our operations for the coming year. So we do not operate out of the general fund. We are self-funded with these returns, and our goal is to manage those responsibly. Three is to support the ecosystem, the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and its development, whether that's very broadly by making connections and if it's not somebody we can directly invest in, maybe there's someone else in the community we know of who can invest in somebody, or if it's very specifically, which we'll speak about later, by building out programs, education, and other means of support for our entrepreneurs. And then four, our strategic initiatives, these were developed by our advisory committee in 2019. They are ecosystem analysis. So we conducted with a third-party researcher an analysis of our overall ecosystem to understand gaps that we may have as in comparison to similar cities across the country, although we know we are very different. And the next is inclusive entrepreneurship, and then of course founder development. I think I'll keep going onto this, but Melanie did beautify this, sorry. Our key performance indicators, or KPIs, these are the measurable outcomes that we base our success on. So one is, of course, providing capital. How much have we deployed? Two is creating economic benefit for Anchorage and generally for all of Alaska. Three is create jobs. Four is diversify our portfolio, and five is returns. Again, sometimes it's confusing to folks, but our program is an investment, or any funds that we have, they are investments. They are generally not grants. So specifically to date, we have invested $8.139 million into 33 firms. We have $3.529 million sitting in fund structures. And what this means is, of our $12.7 million, we built out partner funds and allocated funding, or allocated funds, yes, for each of those partner funds. And when they find a company they would like to invest in, they call down that capital. So we still have 3.5 left. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but as of March 31st, we de-obligated from our remaining operating funds $250,000 from each of them to build a COVID response $1 million direct co-investing fund. Then we have some unobligated funding, which is a fairly small amount, just $76,000. So that brings us to our original total of $12.74 million. Of our Evergreen Fund, we've seen roughly $1.69 million, or $1,682,199. We've invested $261,000 of that, and we are holding on to an operating reserve of at least 2 years. So $1 million is sort of set aside so that we can continue to see this fund through and support the ecosystem. So here, oh gosh, one is kind of cut off at the bottom. Here is our is a breakdown of each of our funds. I can answer questions specifically about them, but this generally shows you the percentage, the size of each fund, and this includes the private capital match of each of our fund managers, as well as our funds that we're matching them with, and the percentage that they have out. So 2 of them are fully deployed. One thing to take note of, I don't have an image in here, but I'm happy to share it, but we operate on something called the capital continuum. And so that includes the life cycle of a business. That's anything from pre-seed, so you have an idea, you're really excited about it, but you need money to really get that idea off the ground, to growth stage. So that is a company like, I'm trying to think of one that's in its growth stage, maybe 60 Hertz, who we heard from earlier, or Heather's Choice. The company's established, but they have an opportunity to greatly grow their operations, and so they need additional capital infusion in order to do that. So all of these funds really run the spectrum. The Alaska Accelerator Fund was a pre-seed or seed stage fund, and they deployed very quickly. But the rest of them are still in operation, and we have made some investments this year as well, and we may have 1 or 2 more to go. I'll keep going. So to close it out, just the final thing I want you to keep in mind is that we have 10 funds. 9 of them are partner funds. 1 is our direct co-investment fund. To date, that we know of, as of our last study last year, done by Center for Economic Development, we have shown a $50 million economic impact in Anchorage. So that means For every $1 we invest, we are seeing up to $7.18 in additional private capital. And a lot of that is due to the fact that we do invest so early in some of those seed or pre-seed stage companies. So they continue to raise capital and increase our impact, basically. We know of at least 190 or more jobs that have been directly created, but there are a couple of reasons why this number could be low. Part of it is we rely on our fund managers to report these numbers to us, and they don't always get information in real time from the companies they've invested in. But we do believe that this impact is greater, and are looking to get the data to support that assumption. And again, our $1.68 million in returned capital, which funds our operations, we do see this as a very positive sign, and we are cautiously optimistic, though we have been told by some of our fund managers that we might be seeing more in the coming years.
Before you go on,
yes,
I have a question from Ms. Allard.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You guys, it's amazing what you do for the community. Really appreciate your hard work. I have a couple of questions. You're the organization that is going to be passing out or doling out funds with the Cook Inlet lending. Is that accurate for the artist grants?
Yes, we are in process with that.
Okay. Just a couple of questions to you. Can you tell me, were you approached by the Muni, or did you approach the Muni to do this grant, or to do the project for Cook Inlet?
So it was, it's hard to say exactly how. I would say that it was a mutual decision. I felt as though we had a skill set, and especially a software that we were using for a co-investment fund that could be of use to the municipality. And so in keeping in line with the Survive, Adapt, Thrive, we wanted to contribute to the Survive aspect. We built this co-investment fund thinking that it was an adequate way to respond to the pandemic, and quickly realized that we weren't in an economic state where companies were able to take on equity stake investments. So I saw a need, and I stepped up and waved my hand and said, hey, I'm here. We're here. We can do this. We can support you guys. Please let us know how we can help deploy these funds as quickly as possible.
Did you, and I have another couple questions for you. Did you know anybody in the administration or on the assembly before approaching us?
I would say I have had not a lot of contact with folks on the assembly. I've had, when I first took over, I've had, Kai was looping us in on the conversation, so I was aware from that aspect. I do work closely with everyone in the administration. We're certainly not a siloed department.
Hey, through the chair, Assemblymember Allard, this is Alex Slivka. I think it's important to understand, a lot of the process behind, what the administration had to do to get a lot of these funds distributed. I mean, we functionally had to go out and find, as Mr. Schutte has shared, I think a number of times, a number of partners who could help us distribute money, because that's not the business we're in. And so to the extent that we have people within the administration, and the 49 State Angel Fund does sit inside my office, the executive team worked together to find people who we knew could do the job quickly and effectively. And 49 State Angel Fund and their team, both Melanie and Aaron, did an excellent job doing that. But that's kind of how it came about, if that helps.
Okay, so here's my final question then, Chair, if it's okay if I can ask Mr. Slivka a question.
Yeah, one last question. Go ahead.
Thank you. So did we approach any other organizations, or was this just a one-shot deal and we decided that we were going to go with this organization and not open it up to others to either apply?
Well, there's several questions. There's several reasons, and again, I'll reflect back on what Mr. Schutte has said about some of the other projects, and this also kind of goes to Ms. Kennedy's question from the prior work session. There are entities out there just sitting around able to do this. We went and discussed with a number of entities that are involved with money, and banks and credit unions come to mind, and I think the state tried to do the same thing. And a lot of those conversations were unsuccessful, kind of due to the idea of, well, how much are we going to get paid in order to do this? So when we're able to utilize existing MOA relationships, and remembering that the 49th State Angel Fund sits inside the municipality, we can do it quickly.
Alex, that's not my question, though. My question is very specific.
So
Please just answer the question.
Sorry.
Did we actually ask any other organizations to apply for
Ms. Allard, Mr. Slifka is going to answer the question, and then I believe Mr. Schutte also has his hand raised. So please continue, Mr. Slifka.
Yeah, I'll let Chris answer it because he had most to do with this area.
Thank you. I just, first of all, wanted to clarify the role that 49 SAF played in the individual artist program. The Cook Inlet Lending Center is the entity that controls the funds and distributes the funds. 49 SAF played a valuable role in that they own or I guess not own, they have access to the online application platform. And that was a shortcoming on Cook Inlet's side. They couldn't administer the individual artist award with online application process, et cetera, and people to review them as they came in, et cetera. So 49 SAF played a part, but they did not manage the money. Just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Thank you. I understand who handles it. It's going to be Cook Inlet. I was just trying to find out the bottom line is, what I'm hearing back is no, we didn't open it up for anybody else to apply to do this contract.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and move us on. Please continue with the presentation, Erin.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. There we go.
Thank you, Erin. So speaking to what has happened during 2020, that the 49th State Angel Fund, which is a municipality division department within the CFO's office, there are 4 main programs that we have administered this year and have worked on successfully. The first one is the $10 lunch, which is sponsored by the Angel Investors Network, Alaska Investor Network, bringing together entrepreneurs and investors in a no stress, low key setting, providing lunch so that they may speak and share bread in a way that they might be able to exchange ideas and perhaps even investments in their own local community. The second one is the all calls that we've been hosting fairly regularly on a monthly basis or so, to be able to hear what is actually happening in our community. To some extent, a parallel to our own assembly meetings, where we hear and listen to our community, our constituents, to understand what their challenges are, where their roadblocks are, and where we can play a role being a municipal department. The third one is Alaska Startup Week, which happened very recently, right before Thanksgiving. A full week of events geared towards our entrepreneurs, building up their skills and sharing different topics and information that might help them grow their own businesses. And then finally, the Alaska Angel Conference, which will be in its 3rd year come 2021. Next. Oh, all right. Sorry, Erin.
The right one. Sorry.
I think it's still the old slide version, I'm sorry to say. We'll get through this technical piece of it if you want to speak to the Angel Conference, and I will backfill the sharing.
Sure. I'll just stop sharing. So as Melanie spoke about, I will share. Do you want me to just share the Angel Conference one? Okay. Apologies for that. I'm still learning SharePoint. So the Angel Conference was founded in 2019. It was founded through 49SAF. So we helped. We were the operations side of things, and this is where we bring together inexperienced and experienced investors to build a fund in real time, all while supporting entrepreneurs as they sort of compete for this. So the first 3 months is a series of free workshops, educational workshops. And then the last 3 months is where the competition part comes in. And so as Kai spoke about, there's a series of pitches and feedback, and we have coffee with investors. And the first year winner was a company called Ramper Innovations, and he received an investment of $115,000. And then there was a sidecar investment in a company called Atently. And then, of course, most recently, 2020, last year, you saw videos from Pandier Shoes, a local startup, women-run startup. They make expandable footwear for people with the need for expandable footwear. So whether your feet swell due to diabetes or other afflictions, I won't, anyway, so they're actually really stylish. They have them on right there. So they received an investment of $100,000. And one of our finalists was Hair Voyage, and they also received a sidecar investment. So in total, in 2 years of the Angel Conference, we've been able to build 2 funds, really 4 funds, and invest, I think it's a total of $415,000 or more. So we're really proud of that. Do you want to talk about Startup Week, or? There we go. You're sharing now, Melanie. Okay. So I think Startup Week is you. Are you? Oh, you're muted.
Nope, let's skip ahead.
Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. Next is, so I'm not seeing, let me pull up I'm not seeing your presentation, Melanie, I'm sorry. I'm not seeing anything, actually.
Apologies, my computer is frozen.
I can entertain more questions as we, do you want to, in a chat to me, Melanie, drop the link? I don't know why. I'm sorry, everyone. Okay, I'm ready if, oh, you have it. Okay. So next is our strategic initiative. As I spoke about at the beginning of our 4 pillars. Let me. Sorry. I'm trying. Okay. So strategic initiative number 1, this began in 2019. We contracted with a company called Hardened Design. We wanted a completely unbiased third-party sort of outsider to help us analyze our ecosystem so that we could understand what gaps might exist and how we might be able to approach addressing them. And specifically, this is the world we sort of operate in that Kai presented on, the entrepreneurial ecosystem, startup communities, it's sort of beginning to be an industry of its own where people are joining, sorry. So where we're building best practices and we can have sort of cross-community comparison. I'm just curious, I'm not seeing any presentation, Melanie. Should I just share I have the Adobe version?
Yes, please.
Okay. Sorry. You'd think a couple of millennials would have this better figured out, but okay. So of Hardened Designs, are we good now? Yeah. Of his recommendations, one was to invest or support in an accelerator or a pre-accelerator. This is something Kai sort of spoke to, but this is what Launch Alaska originally started as, a means to bring diverse entrepreneurs who want to learn about scaling their company and connect them with funding resources. Next is a founders network. This is something that needs to be a grassroots effort, sort of built by and supported by founders and entrepreneurs. We maybe can't do that, but we can support them in ways that they may need. Next is corporate connections. This is something that I think we are really lacking in Anchorage and could definitely work on. Kai certainly has a lot of ideas, but larger corporations, if you look at other SSBCI programs across the country, they were funded by and supported by either corporations or the state government. So I know Kroger helped build a co-working space in Cincinnati, and that helped launch that SSBCI program and help them invest their dollars pretty quickly. Establishing ecosystem trust. This is something that's also nuanced and really fits into our inclusive entrepreneurship initiative as well. This is something even Piper spoke to in the last presentation, where we have strong numbers in terms of statistics of women entrepreneurs, but it really expands beyond that, where people who have a really good idea and want to become an entrepreneur feel welcomed in our community, and like they can approach anyone like me or Melanie or Chris or anybody in our community to support them on their journey and make sure that they have all of their needs met. Keep programming broad. This is something we try to answer specifically with our Angel Conference and some other initiatives where we have free educational workshops that cover everything from how to build a term sheet or, how to build a business plan, or trying to think of what does impact investing look like, just different, all aspects of programming and supporting entrepreneurs as they have questions and making sure they have education readily available. And then build more links outside of Anchorage. I know one of the particularly successful nodes that's been brought up is someone like Penny Gage, who is, she works with Google on training initiatives inside of Anchorage, but she has traveled across the country to really connect us to a broader national network. And one of the reasons why Melanie was brought in is she has connections across the globe with investors and entrepreneurs alike. So we just like to build those connections so that people think of Anchorage as an innovative hub and a really great place to do business. Let's see. Sorry about that. Next, our other strategic initiative is inclusive entrepreneurship, and I spoke to that a minute ago, but specifically...
Actually, apologies.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I have a question on that prior slide from Mr. Dunbar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Aaron. So on the accelerator incubator point there, I know that we do a variety of these sort of short-term, almost like crash courses that are accelerator incubators, and we heard about some of those programs during the last work session.
Yeah.
But I know some other locations have actual physical buildings. Sometimes they're like large houses where a number of people can live for free until their product is ready to go to the market. Do we have anything like that in Anchorage? And if not, is there some way that we could do that? And I'm thinking also, the municipality has a variety of properties. I don't know if we have anything appropriate for that, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we've actually been approached by some folks who've thought that potentially we could convert some municipal property into an incubator. I don't know if this is Silicon Valley show on HBO. That's kind of where the show is based off of. But to my knowledge, we don't have anything going on right now unless somebody does. I know there have been some ad hoc initiatives, basically some guys wanting to get a house and say, you guys can come and do this in that fashion. I know there's one gentleman who wants to start an incubator in, I think, Wasilla, so he's in the Valley. So it is on the minds of people here. I will say that the boardroom has been functioning as an incubator of sorts, though it isn't free. But which is also where Launch Alaska was housed. But to my knowledge, nothing of note or programmatically officially has launched.
Wait, are you saying people living in the boardroom?
No. But in terms of like a place where you could go talk about your ideas, bounce things off of each other, that's sort of how the boardroom functioned for a really long time. A lot of things started out of there.
Yeah. Well, I'm very interested in this, and perhaps the boardroom, the broader MOA and the 49 State Angel Fund can form that conjoined triangle of success.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please continue, Aaron.
Okay. Next is we joined a national cohort in partnership with the National League of Cities and the Kauffman Foundation to collect data on our respective procurement practices. So essentially, we're with Portland, Oregon, Jackson, Mississippi, and a few others to understand how we go about procuring contractors, the RFP process, to everything down to sort of the nitty-gritty of how we collect data. And one of the areas that we identified that we could definitely improve is in the collection of data. So I don't know how many of you know, but when a contractor does start to do business with us, we can anyway, I just looked at the time. I don't have time to go through this. But basically, we are looking at the ways that we can collect data, collect better data, hold it up against some of the standards that we would like to implement, and then eventually look at potentially, if needed, adjusting some of our procurement practices to ensure that we can recruit and support small businesses, veteran-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, and minority-owned businesses. Any questions? Okay. I don't have the notes, Melanie. So, okay. So we, as I alluded to before, we started a co-investment fund. March hit. We didn't know, our heads were spinning a little bit. We didn't know what to do. We had, this $3.5 million of funds that we would have loved to have deployed very quickly, but because it is a federal grant program, there's a number of encumbrances and on those dollars. So we decided to de-obligate $1 million of those dollars, build a direct co-investment fund whereby we match private capital investments anywhere between $10,000 and $25,000 near automatically. So folks that we invest in still have to meet those federal requirements, and we are still seeking a return on those investments. But we thought this was one way that we could sort of get money out on the streets as quickly as possible. And half of this fund is carved out to create the Building Equity Co-Investment Fund. So this prioritizes applications as well as technical assistance for Black, Indigenous, and people of color owned businesses. Okay. And then finally, as we spoke to already, thank you for the questions. Oh, guys, waiting in the lobby. We quickly realized that our co-investment fund people basically weren't quite ready to receive those equity stake investments, but we wanted to continue to support the municipality and our business community in any way we could. So we had, like I said, this software program that is able to accept and build out applications essentially. So we supported and and before that, I helped the municipality at large get our grant program initiated with the United Way for our rental relief funds. So building the grant agreement, all of the amendments, working with the United Way team on launching the program, and just helping them in any possible way. And then eventually we did support the hospitality grants. We are doing the technical stuff, the accepting applications and processing them. And then we partnered with Alaska Hospitality Retailers. They are distributing the funds. And as you all know now, Cook Inlet Lending Center is distributing those funds for the artist grants. Okay, and now on to 2021 for our last few minutes. So these are our new initiatives, and we very much do see this as us moving into our adapt phase as we have supported the survive phase here in the municipality. Sorry. Number one is our upskilling program. So we are partnering with an organization called Generator to bring to Anchorage this upskilling program. So there will be cohorts of 40 to 50 folks all at one time. And you can see on the right, these are all of the available courses. Folks will go through a certification process, so that we're partnered with Microsoft and LinkedIn. While they're going through this process, they get a buddy to help them ensure that they're actually learning all of this material. Upon completion, they will join a job fair, a virtual job fair. So folks who are un or underemployed can get certified in, say, software development, and then they join a national job fair, find a job anywhere in the country, work remotely from Anchorage, and continue to live here, but work at anywhere in the country. So we will be bringing in or hiring, so we're going to create 2 new jobs in Anchorage, and one of those jobs will be supporting this upskilling program. Our goal, of course, is to grow our remote work-driven economy and services. We worked very closely with the Center for Economic Development to ensure this was a program that would benefit our community. We wanted to know the numbers behind it. Is remote work going to stay? Do people want to work from home in the long term? And pretty much, yes, they do. So we want to make sure that our community has the skills they need to continue doing that while living here. Okay, and then next, Generator is we're also creating another position to run a program called G-Beta, and this speaks to the accelerator model. So Upstart Alpha is Center for CED, Center for Economic Development's pre-accelerator. So this is the idea stage. The G-Beta program is specifically geared to take entrepreneurs they built the company, they think they have a good product, they have a customer base, but now they want to scale. They want to scale the company, make the impact really big, but they also want to take on additional investment dollars. So it's a turnkey solution. People who join the accelerator don't pay anything. A lot of times accelerators require an equity stake in the company, but we're not going that route. So in 2020, we will have 2 cohorts with a total of 10 startups going through this program. you know, they have a list of statistics that we can share, but typically in year one, we see about 20 new jobs created, as well as an $85,000 in follow-on investments as people meet and get sort of socialized with the national cohort of investors that Generator and G Beta has built up through the years. And then finally, WeFunder is so they worked with Congress to build the Crowdfunding Act. So this allows unaccredited investors to invest in any company for as little as $100. Alaska does have a crowdfunding exemption, which we do use for the Alaska Angel Conference, but we've learned very quickly that the legal and accounting and all the other fees and marketing associated with running a crowdfunding campaign can be pretty difficult burden for a small business or a new startup to bear. So WeFunder has a ready to go turnkey platform where anybody can raise money from their local community. They start out with generally seeing if it can raise at least $10,000. Our goal is to use our co-investment fund. So once a company raises $10,000, we invest $10,000 into their WeFunder campaign. That then sends them on a flywheel where they can market more broadly to a national audience and generate greater investment. So once they hit the $25,000 mark, we'll invest another $15,000, matching that $25,000. So we hope that this will provide a turnkey solution for folks who can't afford a lawyer and an accountant, but do have a really fantastic product. And we already have one company in Anchorage that is seeking co-investment on the WeFunder platform. And this also is born out of they put together sort of an accelerator for ecosystem builders, and myself, Jasmine Smith, the startup founder for Baby Vend, and of course Business Boutique, and Julia Casey, who was at Center for Economic Development, we were selected to go to San Francisco and take part in this fellowship or accelerator of sorts. We learned how to be effective ecosystem builders.
All right. And finally, as we think about our adapt phase and thinking more broadly as to what innovation and entrepreneurship means, we are partnering with the municipality's Solid Waste Services Department to work on and administer the commercial property assessed clean energy financing that will be coming and launching very soon, we hope, the CPACE program, which all of you have enabled us to do. So we're thinking about the next 20, 50, 100 years of Alaskan economy and thinking about what the future looks like and which industries are growing, helping administer that much like we have done with the CARES Act dollars, using our own infrastructure for investments to be able to execute swiftly and effectively. Next slide. So wrapping this all up, we've talked about survive and adapt a lot, and the third pillar is thriving. And we hope, although we don't have a strategic plan at this moment in time to address thriving, all of the initiatives that we have absolutely fit into the thriving economy that we hope to build and the ecosystem that is resilient to COVID and other pandemics or natural disasters that could happen, to be set up for successes for the years to come.
With that, we'll take questions, and we thank you all for your time.
Great. Thank you so much, Erin and Melanie. Are there any questions or comments? All right, I'm not seeing any. Well, thank you both so much for the presentation, and looking forward to the great work you have lined up in 2021.
Thank you.
With that, I'm going to go ahead and end this work session, and with that, I'll say have a good weekend, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.